Hey there, guys! Thanks so much for joining me today, and a very big welcome to another Holy Shed. As you know, this is the littlest parish in Christendom with a very big heart. So, whoever you are, wherever you're coming from, it's great to have you. You're very welcome. And what a week it's been, eh? It isn't very often that bishops make headline news unless they've done something really naughty or bad. And there are plenty of people who think that the Anglican Bishop of Washington, Marianne Buddy, was indeed very bad when she spoke directly to the president, Donald Trump, and appealed to him to show mercy toward people who are scared now, frightened of the consequences of him becoming president again. LGBTQ plus people, immigrants, people seeking refuge, all kinds of folk who she cited are now feeling really scared. And she asked him to show mercy toward these people. Let me tell you a story. Back in the early 1990s, when I was young and foolish, I mean, I may still be, well, not young, but back then, I agreed to speak at a conference where I was invited to give a critique of one of my fellow speakers' ideas, with him sitting there in front of me. It was only later that I realised I was actually set up, I was set up to say what the conference host wanted to say, but lacked the sphericals to do. As something of a guru in the world he inhabited, it turned out that he wasn't accustomed to peer critique and none too pleased by the experience, despite, of course, my charitable attitude and my even-handed appraisal. I'm sure it was uncomfortable for him, and it was uncomfortable for me too, really, not least because he completely refused to make eye contact as I was speaking and spurned my attempts to placate him with self-deprecating Scouse humour, which is usually quite a charming tactic that I have. But what Bishop Marian did before millions of people and Donald Trump himself on the front row, surrounded by, supporters and family, it was nothing less than awesome. I think that, if I'm honest, I would have liked her to make a couple of tiny adjustments in her sermon. I think that not mentioning Jesus specifically, and perhaps saying that, in one of his greatest sermons, he said, "Blessed are the merciful." I think that the absence of mentioning Jesus in that way played right into the hands of, Fox TV, who've made a big deal about it, another Episcopalian bishop who never mentions Jesus, and so on. But she did a great job, and she spoke truth to power with enormous courage. It may not be surprising given the fact that her most recent book is called How We Learn to Be Brave, Decisive Moments in Life and Faith. Won't surprise you to know that it's, when I last checked, it was sold out on Amazon. But I think we should buy it and make it a massive, massive bestseller. Donald Trump called her a so-called bishop. I mean, so-called? Really? I think you'll find she is a bishop. Elected, unlike in the Church of England, elected by the people in churches of the Washington diocese and given all the backing of her fellow bishops. So, there's nothing so-called about her. He said she was nasty. Well, I never heard anything nasty in her tone. Quite the opposite, actually. He called her a radical left hardline Trump hater who isn't very good at her job. She hasn't really responded very much to this. She did say in an interview that she strives not to hate anyone and does not hate Trump. She actually described her sermon as fairly mild. And I think actually I can understand that. It was the context that made it so audacious. She said she just wanted to remind the new president that the country has been entrusted to him, and one of the qualities of a leader is mercy. You may remember this too. I remember Archbishop Robert Runcie giving a sermon in what was supposed to be a triumphal Thanksgiving after the Falklands War in 1982 in St Paul's Cathedral. And he was attacked verbally, quite viciously, by government ministers and criticised by Margaret Thatcher, the Prime Minister, for being unpatriotic. Basically, because he declared that people on both sides of the conflict were mourning. And he asked the country to pray for the dead on both sides and for Argentine as well as British mothers who had lost sons. Sounds pretty reasonable to me, and Christian. But regardless of what we think about Donald Trump or Margaret Thatcher, or indeed no matter what we make of Bishop Marion's sermon, the fact is sermons are not meant to be approval sermons, statements. They're not intended to be uncritical affirmation of heads of political parties or affirming government policy, or on the other hand, to be, cautiously neutral. Look at Jesus, our leader, our example. He called the leaders of his day hypocrites and whited sepulchres. He described Herod as a fox. I mean, I quite like foxes, but I don't think it was meant in a kind of complimentary way. He famously overturned the tables in the temple and took the mickey out of Pilate by riding into Jerusalem on a female donkey with her foal in tow, all in contrast to, Pilate's great Roman stallion. In Luke's Gospel, we learn, Luke chapter 4, we learn about Jesus returning to his hometown Nazareth and giving a sermon in the synagogue. It was quite early on in his public ministry, but already his reputation was spreading all across the Galilee region. He was praised by people for his wisdom and eloquence. And so, I guess understandably, his neighbours wanted a bit of the action, really. He was one of them, after all. He was a local lad made good. Isn't he Joseph's lad, somebody said? But he wasn't there to give a warm glow to his former neighbours. He chose this occasion to publish what some people call his Nazareth Manifesto. In effect, he was saying to them, you want to know what I'm about? Well, listen to this. And it's actually a quote from Isaiah that he gave as a summary of what he was all about. He said, the Spirit of the Lord is upon me because he has anointed me to bring good news to the poor. He sent me to proclaim release to the captives and recovery of sight to the blind, to let the oppressed go free, to proclaim the year of the Lord's favour. And when you look at those words, if Bishop Marion is hard left, then I can't help wondering where that leaves Jesus. It was radical stuff, but if he'd actually ended the sermon at that point, maybe things would have been okay. And normally the way it's preached, that is the end of the sermon. And his congregation probably were mainly peasant poor folk, people oppressed by Roman occupation and Jewish overlords. They were beaten down and disheartened. So, hey, if Jesus is going to lead the chorus of opposition to the authorities, well, hey, bring it on, so long as he doesn't bring down the kind of condemnation and the kind of terror of the authorities upon us. But the fact is, he didn't stop there. He turned in his next part to two stories from the Hebrew scriptures, from the Old Testament, which he clearly was giving a spin to. We don't have the whole script, obviously, of what he said in the Gospels, but these are stories in which God sidestepped the needs of many, many Jewish people to bless to Gentiles, foreigners, others instead. And this is what he said. He said, the truth is, there were many widows in Israel in the time of Elijah, when the heaven was shut up for 3.5 years. And there was a severe famine over all the land. And yet, he says, Elijah was sent to none of them except to a widow at Zarephath in Sidon, a Gentile. There were also many lepers in Israel in the time of the prophet Elisha, and none of them was cleansed except Naaman, a general in the Syrian army. Well, that was quite a tipping point. In that instant, the atmosphere in the synagogue changed. It says, when they heard this, all in the synagogue were filled with rage. They got up, they drove him out of the town, they led him to the brow of the hill on which the town was built, so that they could hurl him off the cliff. Wow. I've had some hostile kind of responses to sermons I've given, but none quite like that. Clearly there was more than just the words that we read there. There was a subtle message. There was an interpretation in what Jesus said, which they heard loud and clear. And what was it? Well, it was that he wasn't going to be part of their narrow tribalism, the message, or anybody's. The message was for everyone. God had no favourites, and that turned them against him. So much so, they wanted to kill him. But throughout the Gospels, Jesus follows that line. Jesus embraces people considered by Jews to be religiously unclean and heretical. The Roman centurion, the Canaanite woman and her demon-possessed daughter, Samaritans, like the leper in Luke 17, where he was the only one out of 10 lepers who returned to give thanks and praise. And it says, and he was a Samaritan. The Samaritan woman at the well in John 4. And of course, the story of the heroic Good Samaritan in the famous parable. It's all over the Gospels, especially Luke, once you have your eyes open to it. Ritual purity connected with food was part of Jewish orthodoxy, but Jesus declared all foods were clean. He said it was what a person carried around within themselves that mattered. So evil intentions, violence, sexual abuse, theft, corruption and slander, these are the things, he said, that make a person unclean. And a man can harp on about God sparing his life until the cows come home. But it's who that person is, it's who we are and how we live that matters, not all that kind of, pious stuff. It's interesting that Bishop Marion did not argue in her sermon for the legitimacy of LGBT plus relationships. She didn't say that immigration isn't complicated and problematic. None of that was her point on that occasion. She pleaded for mercy toward those who were frightened of what a Trump administration was going to mean for them. And guys, that is not woke or hard left. It's fundamental Christianity, actually. It's more than that, it's fundamental humanity. Blessed are the merciful. That's not a woke statement. It's Christ-like. It's an expression of the heart of God. Drawing lines, that separate, creating an us and them, making certain people outsiders who are to be excluded. It's nothing to do with Jesus Christ. It is alien to everything that he stood for and everything that he did. The Anglican priest and interreligious theologian Mathuraj Swami, he writes, every time you draw a line between who's in and who's out, you will find Jesus on the other side. Great stuff. I believe that the Nazareth Manifesto in Luke 4, plus the Beatitudes and the whole Sermon on the Mount, are the values expressed by Jesus in these sermons are embodied in Martin Luther King's notion of what he called a beloved community. A great world house, he said, in which black and white, Easterner and Westerner, Gentile and Jew, Catholic and Protestant, Muslim and Hindu learn to live together in peace. Look, Martin Luther King wasn't a flawless human being. I don't think leaders have to be that. But he understood that the essence of Jesus' message pointed toward a way of being in the world based on unity within difference, a community based on goodness, kindness and mercy, based on a vision that all people are God's people. This is not woke. This is not hard left. This is the kingdom of God, the beloved community, the great world house. Martin Luther King said, "We must learn to live together as sisters and brothers, or perish together as fools." St. Paul addresses this subject from a slightly different perspective. Writing to the church of Corinth in 1 Corinthians, he calls for a unity in which no one is despised, discarded, or left out. The eye cannot say to the hand, "I have no need of you," nor again the head to the feet, "I have no need of you." On the contrary, he says, the members of the body that seem to be weaker are indispensable. And those members of the body that we think less honourable, we clothe with greater honour. And our less respectable members are treated with greater respect. God has so arranged the body, giving the greater honour to the inferior member. Now, there's quite a bit of euphemism in all of that, but the message is quite clear. Paul is writing to a church community in which there is discrimination, there's snobbery, there's partisanship and dishonouring of the vulnerable. All of this is quite clear from the preceding chapters. But his response doesn't simply apply to a church storming a teacup. It applies to the wider community, to the world in general. A body with many diverse members is just another metaphor for the way community at all levels needs to work. It's about inclusion. It's about unity in diversity instead of conflict over difference, or indeed imposed fake unity through imposed conformity. It's about the genuine affirmation and recognition of each individual and of the differences that exist between us. But Paul knows that this cannot possibly be achieved apart from love, which is why he moves straight on and there are no chapter and verse divisions in the original New Testament text. It's why he moves straight from chapter 12, where he's talking about the body in that way, to chapter 13, which is the chapter all about love being the greatest thing of all. It doesn't matter what talents we possess, what virtues we imagine we possess, what superior faith we think we have compared to the faith of others. Without love, it's all a useless, hollow waste of time. The body of the church, the body of a community, the body of society, the body of a nation or the world in general can only hold together and function as it should when love is at its core, when love is its central organising practice. And I don't mean something sort of all sweet and lovey-dovey. As far as I'm concerned, kindness, mercy, compassion and justice and the like. This is what love looks like in practice. Doesn't matter how much love's expressed in words and so on. It's when we are kind, when we are acting with compassion and justice and so on, that love is a reality amongst us. The world has some very complex problems. We all know this. Some, like the climate emergency, has got dire consequences for future generations more than ourselves. I'm not saying that there aren't huge issues to be tackled and faced up to and dealt with by an incoming president of, at the moment, still the most powerful nation in the world. And on one level, I wish Trump well because I have to do that. He's around there for 4 years, so I have to wish him well because solutions are needed, and I'd be very happy for him to surprise me in that. But I absolutely do not like and do not identify with the direction that things are headed at the moment in a Trumpian United States. And when I listen to some of his evangelical Christian supporters lauding Donald Trump's vision of America's future, well, I just despair. I don't know how they managed to reconcile these things with who and what Jesus is all about. What the world needs so much right now is leaders who will draw us together in the world, not divide us. So many things, political things seem to be about, separating and dividing people and putting fuel on the fires of conflict. We need tolerance, we need kindness, we need love, not policies that exclude and alienate or ignore the pain of other people around us. The difference between good and bad religion is not a matter of my beliefs are better than yours. It's not a matter of, Christianity is better than Islam and that kind of silliness. It's not a matter of God's on our side, not yours. It's not about you're going to heaven, or you're going to hell and we're going to heaven. Jesus made all of this very clear. He made very clear the difference between, in effect, good and bad religion. He said, it's about, what did you do when you saw me hungry or naked? Did you feed me, give me drink, clothe me, or not? What did you do when I was a stranger, knocking at your door, looking for refuge? Did you welcome me or turn me away? What did you do when I was in prison or when I was sick? Did you care for me? Or did you go away and look after yourselves? The division between good and bad religion, between sheep and goats in that particular story, isn't between one religion or another. It's not about cultural backgrounds or differences of belief. It is between those who demonstrate love in action, who care and show kindness, and those who don't. And that's the way it is. And whatever the future now holds in these next 4 years or whenever, I think that each one of us needs to commit ourselves to following Jesus and to the principle of love that he taught, love of neighbour, love of enemy, just doing our little bit in our sort of little corner of the world, as it were. Even though we may feel helpless about the bigger things that are going on, we've all got somewhere to start. We've all got somewhere to get on with the business of fulfilling the manifesto that Jesus brought at Nazareth and in the Sermon on the Mount and so on. Here's a prayer which is kind of about this, really. You may say I'm a dreamer. If woke means imagining a better world, then surely woke has to be a great idea, right, God? I mean, some dismiss Lennon's dream as sappy, sentimental tosh, all you need is love, etc. And yet most people I know would wish to live in that world. I know I'm not the only one who believes that goodness will outlive spitefulness, that kindness will beat the heck out of hatred, or that light will vanquish darkness, because, finally, love will endure. But I long for a world where freedom to be outstrips the right to tell others how they should be, where social fears and phobias, xeno, homo, trans and the like, are a thing of the past, along with racism, misogyny and other senseless attitudes. Surely this can't be too much to ask. I believe the golden rule of love and mutual respect trumps every other rule and far outstrips our silly likings and proclivities. Am I woke, dear God? I do hope so. Especially if woke means living with compassion, striving toward a world that welcomes strangers, whatever their story, that makes poverty history, that defends the rights of all people and relishes this incredible planet. I don't think woke is something new or faddish for bleeding liberal hearts like mine. It is the wisdom of old, emblazoned in every tradition. Treat others how you wish to be treated. Love your neighbour as yourself. Just imagine that, I say. It's easy if you try. Okay, well, quite simply, I would like to drink to that, to all of the above. How about you? If you've got a drink handy, I invite you now to join me in that and toast a world of compassion and mercy and love and forgiveness, of kindness, to life in all its glory. L'chaim. Marvellous. Well, thank you for being here for my little rant. And if you like what I'm doing in the Holy Shed, you can support us. You can buy us a coffee. You just need to follow the link on your screen now. And we are deeply grateful for everyone who does that or supports us in whatever way. Much appreciated. Okay, one little notice is that I have put this on Facebook, and I'll probably do it again, that this week on Thursday I'm in Liverpool, and I'm a speaker at a launch night of a new radically inclusive community in the city called Spirit and Truth. And it's all been launched by a very lovely dear friend of mine, Gary, and I think Gary Hayes, and I think it's an amazing sort of prospect. So there's going to be a whole pile of lovely things going on at the launch night, as well as me speaking. And it's going on from 7 o'clock-ish to 8:30. It's in a very nice location, as you can see on this here thing. And it's there's a bar that's open throughout the evening. And yeah, that's church. So if you are anywhere near Liverpool, or you know people who are, would you get the word out? Because we'd like to see as many people come to give this new community a sort of good shove out of the blocks, and I'm looking forward to people coming and just giving it a once over. Fantastic. I think that's all I need to say, really. I have got a video to finish with, which is a song that I think is wonderfully appropriate to all of these things we've been thinking about. Thanks for being here with me. Have a great week. Go out there to be a little bit of light in the world through even the most simple and menial expressions of love and mercy and peace. And I'll see you soon. Bye.
From the day that we were born, and mom hugged us with warmth, and we grew cause we knew we had all your support. From the fams to the friends, your love was medicine, keep giving us the strength to rise when we would sin. And the knowledge that we gained through every single mistake, but you never backed down. Through this, you taught me faith. Every single one of you, through being you, you do find a way to spread love, truth through me and you. And it's because of you I grew, because of you I flew, because of you I made it through without residue. Because of you we all have a home to come to. You're a blessing to us all, so keep just being you.
To my people, yeah, you're my soul, you're my roots, you're my family, my life, you're my truth. To my people, yeah, you're everybody, every being, every life, every moment, everything. To my people, yeah, you're my God, you're my soul, you're the one that pushes me to help me grow. To my people, yeah, I bow down to your heart of gold. Yeah.
First I thank the universe, the infinite, the all, Kaja, Allah, whatever name you call. Then I thank the ancestors, yes, our predecessors, the wisdom and the knowledge that they passed only bless us. Shot the Marcus Garvey, MLK, Malcolm Gandhi, Bob Marley, Michael Jackson, Tupac, they remind me the power of the pen, the music and the voice. Everything they've done let me know I have a choice. Now for my people, mom, pop, sister, brother, best friend, acquaintance, lover, co-worker, even if I don't know you, for the good that you do helps me see my way through surface space, things to share with all the good.
To my people, yeah, you're my soul, you're my roots, you're my family, my life, and my truth. To my people, yeah, you're everybody, every being, every life, every moment, everything. To my people, yeah, you're my God, you're my soul, you're the one that pushes me to help me grow. To my people, yeah, I'll bow down to your heart of gold. Yeah.
When I close my eyes, I always see learning souls who walk with me. They're taught to laugh, they're taught to love. You go to hug when push comes to shove. Turn the cheek, forgive, walk away. Tomorrow is another day. Life is short, helping hands, they say, are holier than the ones who
pray. To my people, yeah, you're my soul, you're my roots, you're my family,
That's the world I want to live in. Stay human.